It is September 9 AD, somewhere in the endless forest east of the Rhine. You are 700 miles from Rome on a mud track that is not a road, in a rainstorm that has not stopped for 3 days. Ahead and behind you, a column of nearly 20,000 people, 3 full legions, their mules, their servants, their women and children, is strung out for miles between a hillside and a bog. Your arms ache, your boots are full of water, and your biggest threat right now isn't the barbarian warband the scouts keep insisting doesn't exist. It's the shield on your back, because after 3 days of rain, the laminated wood has drunk so much water you can barely lift it. History books love to talk about Rome's glory, its marble, its roads, its eagles. But senators don't die face down in a German bog. Their working class does. You are a 32-year-old legionary of the 18th Legion, 12 years into a 25-year contract, and you are marching into the most perfect ambush in ancient history. Welcome back to You Are Cannon Fodder. Today, how 3 days of rain, 1 wet shield, and a camouflaged turf wall erased 3 Roman legions so completely that Rome never dared use their numbers again. Before the killing starts, run the numbers on yourself, because the Roman army invented the economic draft and then wrote it into a 25-year contract. 25 years, a legionary's pay, 225 denarii a year, and here's the detail the recruiting officer skips. The army deducts the cost of his food, his boots, his equipment, even his burial fund, directly from his wages. Rome made its soldiers pay for the boots they died in. So who signs a deal like that? The same people who always do. If you're earning around £28,000 today, you are the legionary, a landless citizen, a bankrupt farmer's son, for whom a brutal state salary plus the promise of a land pension at retirement is the only ladder out of poverty. If you're a non-citizen, you serve as an auxiliary. Less pay, more risk, and citizenship after 25 years. The green card soldier, 2,000 years early. And the officers? The tribunes and the legate are senators' sons and equestrians, men of capital doing a safe tour on the command track before a career in politics. Publius Quinctilius Varus, the man leading this column, isn't even a general. He is an administrator, a taxman, married into the emperor's family. Poverty signed the contract, politics led the column. The mud is about to take them both. Meet Marcus. He is 32, and he has carried his world on his back since he was 20. The soldiers' own nickname for themselves was Marius's mules, up to 30 kilos of stakes, tools, rations and armor, 30 kilometers a day. But today his problem is the one piece of equipment meant to save his life. The Scutum, a curved shield of laminated wood, 3 layers glued crosswise, Roman engineering at its finest, roughly 7 kilos. Dry. It was issued with a leather rain cover, because the army knew exactly what water does to glued wood. But you cannot fight with the cover on, and it has now rained hard for 3 days. Cassius Dio, our fullest ancient source, spells out the physics. The rain made their bows useless because wet sinew goes slack, and their shields waterlogged, too heavy to carry properly. Read that again. The army, whose entire fighting system is built on the shield wall, is dragging shields it can barely hold. Marcus's mail is rusting at his shoulders as he walks. His hobnailed boots, which he paid for, remember, skate on wet clay like studs on ice. The column cannot form a line because the track is a strip of mud between a slope and a marsh. Wagons jackknifed, mules down, families screaming, standards snagging in the trees. He is a professional soldier in the world's most professional army, and not 1 hour of his training applies to anything that is about to happen. This is not a battle, it is a 3-day harvest. The German commander Arminius chose the killing ground years before the moment, a narrow corridor at a hill called Kalkriese, where the track squeezes between a slope and a bog. Modern archaeology found what he built there, a turf wall, roughly 700 meters long, camouflaged into the tree line, with a fence along the top. A firing platform disguised as forest. The javelins come from behind it in sheets. When the Romans charge the wall, it holds. When they fall back, the bog takes them. Day 1, the warbands strip the baggage train, the food, the tents, the families. Day 2, the storm gets worse, and the column simply walks. because there is nowhere else to go. Men stepping over their own wounded, sleeping that night in armor behind a half-built rampart. Day 3, the cavalry commander takes the horsemen and abandons the column, and every man still walking understands exactly what that means. Excavators at Kalkriese have pulled more than 5,000 Roman military objects from that soil. Buckles, sandal nails, surgeon's tools, coins that stopped dead at 9 AD, and pits of human bones buried years after they fell, the cut marks still legible 2,000 years later. This is industrial slaughter conducted with farm tools and patience, and the rain never, ever stopped. Here is the detail that makes Teutoburg different from every ambush before or since. The man who designed it was a Roman officer, Arminius. Rome gave him citizenship. Rome gave him equestrian rank. Rome gave him a command in the auxiliaries and taught him from the inside how a legion thinks, where a column stretches thin when the scouts get lazy, how Romans panic. The empire trained its own executioner and then promoted him. So when Marcus looks over his waterlogged shield at the shapes behind the wall, he does not see monsters. He sees auxiliaries who marched beside him last summer, now facing the other way. He sees a Cherusci farm boy clutching a spear, defending the valley his family has always farmed, every bit as terrified of the armored machine in front of him as Marcus is of the forest around him. 2 working men, both trained, both used, one by an empire that packaged his poverty as a career, one by a warlord who packaged his homeland as a cause. The machine does not care which side of the wall you die on. On the last morning, in the rain, what remains of 3 legions is pressed into a shrinking pocket of mud. Varus, the taxman, falls on his own sword, as Roman commanders do when the arithmetic fails. What happens around him, we know because Tacitus lets us see it. 6 years later, when another Roman army finally reached the site to bury what was left, bleached bones heaped where men made their last stands, skulls nailed to the tree trunks. And in the sacred groves nearby, the altars where captured tribunes and senior centurions were burned as offerings to the German gods. The ordinary prisoners, men like Marcus, were sold. Decades later, Roman soldiers were still finding them. Grey-haired old men in German villages, enslaved survivors of the 18th, ransomed as grandfathers. In Rome, Suetonius tells us, Augustus let his hair and beard grow for months and beat his head against the doors of the palace, shouting, "Quintilius Varus, give me back my legions." Notice the wording, "Give me back my legions," not my men. Rome retired the numbers 17, 18, and 19 forever. The only legion numbers in 1,000 years of Roman history never used again, and filed 20,000 human beings under 3 digits. The empire remembered the numbers. It never once recorded the names. They were just cannon fodder.